we have just sanctioned the Iranian National Bank. That is their central banking system, and it's going to be at the highest level of sanctions. So that just took place, and a couple of other things. We have our Secretary of Treasury here, Steve Mnuchin. If you want to say just a word, Steve, before we begin.
Mr. President, as you instructed me, we are continuing the maximum pressure campaign. This is the last remaining source of funds, so both the Central Bank of Iran as well as the National Development Fund, which is their sovereign wealth fund, will be cut off from our banking system. So this will mean no more funds going to the ROGC or to fund terror. And this is on top of our oil sanctions and our financial institution sanctions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. President.
This is very big. We've now cut off all sorts of funds to Iran.
It goes all the way up to the very top?
That does.
The President?
Right to the top.
Supreme Leader?
Right to the top. Okay? Yes. Right to the top. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate it.
President.
So we're dealing with many nations. We're dealing with some of the neighbors to Saudi Arabia, and of course we're dealing with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is very much involved from the standpoint of what we're doing and what they're doing, and we're working together with others. We're also working on the cost of this whole endeavor, and Saudi Arabia has been very generous. We want to see if it works out, and if it works out, that's great, and if it doesn't work out, that's great. In the end, it always works out. That's the way it is. It always works out. So you'll be seeing certain things happening, but a very major factor is what we did. These are the highest sanctions ever imposed on a country. We've never done it to this level. And it's too bad what's happening with Iran. It's going to hell, doing poorly. They're practically broke. They are broke. And they could solve the problem very easily. All they have to do is stop with the terror. They have been the number one, as you know, Scott, very well, number one country worldwide of terror, between sponsoring it and doing it themselves. And we can't have it. They have a tremendous potential. They have an incredible potential. I can speak on behalf of Australia, too, in the sense that we'd like to see them do very well. We were discussing it before, the Prime Minister and myself. We want to see him to do well, but it looks to me like with what's happening, maybe they want to keep going at it. And when they go at it with us, there's no way they win. No way they win in any way or in any capacity. So we wanted to let you know about that, and that's the way it is. And thank you all very much. We're going to spend a lot of time with Australia today. Today is a very special day for the United States because we're honoring a great ally and a great friend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Scott, would you like to say something?
It's a tremendous honour for Australians, for Jan and I to be here with the President and Mrs. Trump. It's a very gracious invitation, but it's an invitation that recognises not just the great relationship the President and I have been able to forge so early, but this goes back a long way, this relationship. As the President often says, we've been in a lot of battles, and those battles, of course, is what's happened in the fields of conflict, but we're battling continuously for a prosperous and a free world.
And we've never lost.
Well, we've been doing great, and we're going to keep doing great because we're going to keep this partnership together. And it's a partnership where we both carry our own weight. As I said outside, we look to America, but we don't leave it to America.
Prime Minister, the President said he spoke for Australia on Iran. Does he?
Well, he was saying that we both would like to see a prosperous Iran. We'd like to see the people of Iran, well, let's see the people right across the world to be able to benefit from prosperous economies doing well. That's what we want. This is why Australia and the United States have always worked so closely together, is because that's what we want for our own people, that's what we want for everyone.
And we've been speaking a lot about this subject, the two of us. I think we have very similar views on the subject.
Are you
Steve?
moving on television yet?
You want to address this whistleblower story, sir? You want to address this whistleblower story?
What story?
The whistleblower, whether it was
Ridiculous story. It's a partisan whistleblower. They shouldn't even have information. I've had conversations with many leaders that are always appropriate. I think Scott can tell you that. Always appropriate, at the highest level, always appropriate. And anything I do, I fight for this country. I fight so strongly for this country. It's just another political hack job. That's all it is.
On that point, did you discuss Joe Biden, his son, or his family with the leader?
It doesn't matter what I discuss, but I will say this. Somebody ought to look into Joe Biden's statement because it was disgraceful, where he talked about billions of dollars that he's not giving to a certain country unless a certain prosecutor is taken off the case. So somebody ought to look into that, and you wouldn't because he's a Democrat. And the fake news doesn't look into things like that. It's a disgrace. But I had a great conversation with numerous people. I don't even know exactly who you're talking about, but I had a great conversation with numerous people, numerous leaders, and I always look for the conversation that's going to help the United States the most. That's very important.
Do you know the identity of the whistleblower? Do you know the identity?
I don't know the identity of the whistleblower. I just hear it's a partisan person, meaning it comes out from another party, but I don't have any idea. But I can say that it was a totally appropriate conversation. It was actually a beautiful conversation, and this is no different than, you know, the press has had a very bad week with Justice Kavanaugh and all of those ridiculous charges and all of the mistakes made at the New York Times and other places. You've had a very bad week, and this will be better than all of them. This is another one. So keep playing it up because you're going to look really bad when it falls. You know, I guess I'm about 22-0, and I'll keep it that way.
Did you mention Joe Biden during the conversation?
I don't want to talk about any conversation other than to say, great conversation, totally appropriate conversation, couldn't have been better. And keep asking questions and build it up as big as possible so you can have a bigger downfall.